and welcome to Chalk Talk, your source for Ohio State varsity athletics news, updates, and analysis. I'm your host, Kaylee Rentz, coming to you from the Lantern TV studios in Columbus, Ohio. I'm joined by senior Lantern reporter Andrew Todd Smith and Lantern TV's assistant sports director Aaron Yerian. Guys, how's it going?
Fantabulous.
No complaints.
Well, before we go into a recap of Ohio State's game against Penn State, guys, there is some news in the football world, so what is it?
So, two things that Buckeye fans need to be aware of. As of this past week, JT Barrett, the starting redshirt freshman quarterback, of course, dealing with a mild medial collateral ligament sprain. So similar,
MCL.
Yeah, MCL. So similar to the injury that Braxton Miller has dealt with in the past. But so he is scheduled to play this coming weekend, but he certainly was limited in practice earlier in the week, but he is slated to take the field. The other thing that people need to be aware of is that third string tailback Rod Smith, the senior, contributor on kickoff coverage, special teams, things we've talked about, and you mentioned last week, Aaron, the situational third down sort of power back has been dismissed from the team for a violation of team rules.
Getting back to JT Barrett, the first thing is on Wednesday he was sporting a leg brace on his left leg with the sprained MCL. So one thing to take note of is he's going to have limited mobility, not just in the pocket, but on the running game. So they're going to have to rely a little bit more on the H-backs and the tailbacks to actually run and move the ball instead of relying on him to scramble for the first down. In the second half, JT Barrett didn't have a whole lot of rushing yards against Penn State, so it'd be interesting to see how they're going to adjust for Illinois.
Referencing the 31-24 double overtime thriller there in University Park, and Barrett kind of took the team on his back there in overtime, and even more impressive to think about now, knowing that he was dealing with his leg issue. So would you evaluate Barrett's performance there at Penn State to be able to eke out a win on the road? What does it mean for the team, and can you just kind of talk about what you witnessed?
Well, first off, regardless of what the team and coaches have said about the environment and being ready to go into there, if you've not been to Beaver Stadium, take a look at this. From where they enter into the field, through the tunnel, through the gates that say Penn State with the giant Nittany Lion logo above them, to standing on the north end zone looking directly into the lion's maw, if you will, of the student section is just a wall of white. Very easy to get rattled. I mean, I think even a veteran quarterback going into that environment, if it's something they're not used to, could easily be startled, just like JT Barrett. 2 interceptions, one right at the beginning of the second half that was returned for a pick six, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But, I mean, for a redshirt freshman, I don't know if you can come down on him too hard on this game.
He matured a lot during that game. Coach Stan Drayton for the running backs had said that he saw something in JT Barrett's eyes where he kind of trusted him to take over during the overtime periods. So, and of course they didn't attempt to pass during, so it was him and Elliott just winning that game. But let's talk about his turnovers because, we've criticized his decision making in the red zone in the past, but he gets that interception return was what started to break the game open for Penn State to get back into it. It was the defensive lineman, Zettel, that returned it. So walk me through, if you're Barrett and you want to get that play back and give it another whirl, what do? Do you take the sack? Do you try and thread the needle to Michael Thomas? Do you try and look to your left and try to complete it to Curtis Samuel? Do you throw it away? Walk me through it.
Well, follow along with me as the play develops. First thing you see is your 2 linebackers on the outside coming up between the gaps in the defensive line. Then as soon as the play starts, he steps back. The defensive lineman drops into a quarterback spy over the middle.
Yeah, in the flat.
And JT Barrett goes through all of his reads across the field and launches essentially a laser right down the middle. Defensive lineman is able to be between the ball and the receiver, and he just puts his hands up, able to catch it, and then weird enough to see a defensive man make an interception like that. Even more strange to see them return it for a touchdown.
Sure.
But as you mentioned earlier, his choices in the red zone, Ohio State was actually 5 for 5 in the red zone in this game. So I don't know if it's so much of his decision making as it was a little bit of the environment just getting to him at the start of the second half.
Sure.
Personally, if you have that play back, I would kind of bootleg out to the side.
Yep.
Either the weak or strong side and try to see if one of my receivers can get open. And if not, if I have a linebacker or defensive end on me, I would attempt to throw the ball away or get it out of bounds. There's no sense in trying to turn up field at the beginning of the second half where you still have 30 minutes of football to play.
Yeah, definitely. So as we said, those interceptions allowing Penn State to get back into it, even though I think we can agree that some poor officiating allowed Ohio State to score more points than maybe they deserved to in the first half. You had the play clock expire on Sean Nurnberger's field goal. He shouldn't have gotten that kick off. And then, of course, the pretty controversial interception by Von Bell that clearly touched the turf, and the Big Ten, addressed it. But yeah, it was a heck of a game, and credit to Penn State and Hackenberg for battling back. Let's hear now from Taylor Decker, who had some very specific and very technical insight on that pick six and what he was able to witness from his position.
Well, we knew a lot of times when they were in odd, they were going to bring a double rifle, which is, a guy off each edge, and they would drop the ends. I think they might have messed up the blitz because my end rushed on that play, but we understood some of the things that they were going to do, and when they were in a 2-eye alignment with their nose, we knew there was going to be a blitz coming away. So I think it was just a quick hit and play where he didn't realize what was coming, and he just made a misread. I mean, we all made plenty of mistakes that game. Like I said, a lot of times when they would go to odd and a little bit in 4 down, when they would bring guys off the edge, they would drop out some of their D linemen. And we expected it more for 3rd down scenarios. But we kind of knew that they had that in their repertoire.
It meant a lot for Joey to come up with that play. Coach Meyer and Coach Johnson all said that the D-line needed to come up with a play, and I'm glad Joey came up with it.
So coming back from some player insight there, we heard from Adolphus Washington as well, talking about his unit, the defensive line, sort of taking ownership of the fact that they won the game. Barrett and Elliott, we talked about them scoring, but Joey Bosa, he sacked Hackenberg on the last play of the game. Aaron, talk about that. I mean, he continues to come up with big plays, and just as we gave Barrett credit for putting the team on his back, Bosa did the same thing.
Well, my score predictions may be well off, but my prediction about Joey Bosa coming up big in this game, no big surprise if you follow Penn State. Their offensive line, not exactly up to the standard to deal with someone like Joey Bosa, named Athlon's National Defensive Player of the Week. Well, in the season, he is the Big Ten leader in tackles for loss with 11.5, 8 of those being quarterback sacks. So he is quite the menace coming off the edge and is going to be quite the force to be reckoned with throughout the rest of the season. Quite honestly, has to be, because it was the defense that kept Ohio State in this game against Penn State. It's going to be the defense that's going to essentially lock down Illinois, who's rolling off a lot of momentum coming off the upset with Minnesota.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So we, during our playoff rankings predictions, we gave Minnesota a lot of credit, and they came up short. Illinois coming up with a scoop and score to ice the game. They lost their quarterback, Wes Lunt, to a leg injury, so you got Riley O'Toole coming in playing for them now. But Minnesota falling to 6-2 overall, Illinois dealing them their first conference loss. So, as you said, the defense continues to need to come up big for Ohio State. Primetime matchup, once again. In terms of what we can expect from Illinois, they're riding that momentum, as you said. It's going to be key for Ohio State to limit Illinois on 3rd down, because that was definitely something that they didn't get done very well in the second half. Penn State didn't convert one in the first half. So, definitely need to tighten up on defense, not allow, even a backup quarterback to, put you in a hole early during, as I said, that primetime matchup at 8 o'clock on Saturday evening. But credit to you for coming up with you predicted 2 Bosa sacks, and there were 2.5. But I'll give it to you. I was correct about Deshaun Hamilton. I mean, he came up, had the Hackenberg-Hamilton connection, I said last week, and he had over 120 yards receiving. So, once again, credit to Penn State for a strong game, but it's the kind of ugly victory that will kind of galvanize this Ohio State team moving forward.
All right, so looking at this week's game, we're going to look at some score predictions. So I'm going to come up with my own.
Nice.
I'm going to throw it in here.
Yes.
I'm going to do 28-21, but I'm going to have Illinois winning it. I'm going to take your guys' advice about them riding the momentum. I'm going to go ahead and take it. So, Aaron, what's yours?
38-27 Ohio State's defense comes up with the stop at the end, but I think Illinois is in it because last year we saw it.
Yeah.
Illinois came back at the end. I think they still have a little bit of that, plus the Minnesota momentum. So I think it's going to be a lot colder and a lot closer than people realize.
Well, I like your guys' picks. I like that we have a little bit of contention here. But yeah, I do think that Ohio State will get back on track, but Barrett could very well be limited. So that's something that we need to focus on. I'm going 41-20 Ohio State. I think Riley O'Toole is going to come in to Ohio Stadium and do a decent job. But I don't think, I'll take full responsibility for the fact that our predictions were way off last week. But he's not Hackenberg. He's not going to put the team on his back and carry them to victory in Ohio Stadium. So 41-20 is where I'm going. But we had a lot of women's volleyball action since the last show. Can you kind of catch us up, Aaron?
Over the weekend, the women's volleyball team hosted Michigan State and Michigan, where they emerged victorious against Sparty in 5 sets and swept the Wolverines.
Yeah, Aaron, they had a very strong showing against Michigan State, even though, not quite as comfortable a victory as it was against Michigan. But of course, they were ranked number 20 at the time. They had 5 servers that were flawless in that Friday night game. And then Saturday, when they faced Michigan, Campbell, Leon, and Sugimoto also had no serving errors. And Louisa Shermer and Erin Seckinger each had 12 kills. So that was a very dominant performance from them. We were able to talk with Elizabeth Campbell and Erin Seckinger after the game in terms of what they faced from those teams from Michigan and what they would be looking forward to from Penn State, who they faced earlier this week.
We gave Michigan State a lot of our own errors, so I think we looked into work on our gameplay. So we tried to just put the ball in play and make Michigan scramble.
Yeah, I think that along with that was just consistency. So keeping the ball in play, making good plays, and keeping our level low.
If we're consistent with serving, that's the game right there. So if we can just keep the ball in play and have the opponent scramble, get them out of system, then they don't have as many choices with as many hitters. So that way we can split out to the hitters that we're trying to focus on shutting down that game. So with serving really tough, that really makes it easier for our defense.
Yeah, as long as we just put the ball on their side, the pressure is all on them, just making them touch the ball. I think they did handle our serves really well. They were in system a lot. They were able to set their slide in their middle. But I think that we did a good job following our game plan and getting a block up on their hitters where they wanted the ball to go when they weren't in system. We've got nothing to lose. No matter what anyone says, we still feel like we're the underdogs and we're still fighting to take people down. So
just as long as we stay confident, I feel like walking into their gym knowing that we can hang with them, that we can beat them, and having that spirit in us, I think we can really do well.
Elizabeth Campbell and Erin Seckinger both talking about consistency and serving just now, 2 areas that they're going to have to capitalize the most on when they faced Penn State earlier in the week. The now ranked number 17 Buckeyes facing the defending national champion and 6th ranked Penn State Nittany Lions in University Park, Pennsylvania. They would come up short in 3 straight sets. But on Halloween night, they get the little revenge match at St. John Arena. Ohio State falls to 16-7 on the season, 7-4 in the Big Ten, but most importantly, they are undefeated at home. Senior setter Micah Hancock for the Nittany Lions, who was the 2013 NCAA Tournament Most Outstanding Player, someone the Buckeyes are going to have to shut down both offensively and defensively in order to have a chance at the upset. Also something to look at, the 3 losses that Penn State has had so far this season have come against Stanford, Nebraska, and Illinois. And if you've been paying attention to the broadcast, Nebraska and Illinois, 2 teams that Ohio State has forced to 5 sets and came away victorious. So there's a little bit of hope. There's a silver lining behind the cloud in St. John Arena. Unfortunately, that's all the time that you're going to have of me this week for football and volleyball. Make sure to tune in next week. I'll be back, but I'll be turning it over to Andrew and Kaylee as they take it away for the rest of the Ohio State varsity sports, first starting with field hockey.
The women's field hockey team headed to Evanston, Illinois this past weekend to take on the number 9 Northwestern Wildcats. They did fall to that team, however, 4-1. Maddie Humphrey scoring the lone goal of the game 1 minute and 39 seconds into the second half. So Ohio State definitely struggled. Liz Tamburo had 12 saves despite allowing those 4 goals. But it had to be a heartbreaker for Coach Ann Wilkinson and her players because 3 of the 4 goals were scored off of rebounds following a Tamburo save. The first goal scored by Northwestern, 4 different players scored, by the way, but the first goal was off a penalty corner. So Ohio State is going to need to regroup as they prepare to face Michigan at home Sunday, November 2nd.
The women's soccer team, they played Iowa and Nebraska, and their record now in the Big Ten is 3-6-3. They had a 2-1 loss to Iowa on Friday night, and then on Sunday they played Nebraska with a 3-1 victory. So pretty good for the Lady Buckeyes to now be at 3-6-3 in the Big Ten. But Andrew, you were able to call the games for SGSR, so what did you see?
Yeah, so Iowa showed no sign of fatigue from that road trip. They were very impressive on the road. They contained the Buckeyes. Defensively, Ohio State was pretty good in space, trying to control the tempo and maintain. We keep harping on midfield possession, but Iowa just the stronger team that day. Nichelle Prince did have a late goal, so to kind of cut the deficit in half there for the Buckeyes. But again, Hawkeyes deserved that game, but Nebraska comes in and scores the first goal, and then Ohio State just woke up in the second half. I mean, they took 21 shots in the second half. That's unheard of. Nichelle Prince had another goal in that game. That was into an empty net because Kelly Schatz for the Huskers was kind of playing more aggressively, similar to what we saw Neuer do for Germany in the World Cup, that aggressive style of goalkeeping, but it backfired on her. Nikki Waltz also scored, and Kayla Varner was a force in that game. Along, as you said, I called the game, and along that near sideline, she was just occupying, playing good possession soccer along that right flank. Nicole Miyashiro and Lindsay Agnew playing at left back and right back were also very strong. They played sort of in a trapezoidal formation where those backs go outside and play forward. And we were able to actually talk to both of them after the game and basically address their sort of more aggressive stance defensively.
The defense gives us space out wide, then the outside back is like an extra player that other teams can't pick up, so it can be like really effective to run like wide and overlap or cut inside because no one knows who to mark in that situation.
And like today when we're pressing high, and that gives us the ability to get forward more and get into the attack.
Which we both are actually converted forward, so we like to get forward. It was tough getting the goal scored on us, but I think we responded like really well and just decided that we were done losing and we needed the win. And a lot of times, like our opposite side center mids are coming across, and we can find them to switch the ball. And they even find sometimes, she was finding me more this game, but the big ball across, which I think is really effective.
And it's all about, we've gotten better at communicating in the back with our center backs, and I'll even hear her from all the way across, and that helps a lot.
Kayla Varner made a huge difference for us up top. I mean, she kept the ball. She was everywhere. She was getting us end line. She was really giving us some chances and some opportunities. But I also think that Nikki Waltz in the middle was connecting for us really well. So I think that made a difference when she got on the ball and she was able to find seams.
So, of course, we're hearing from the defensive players there, as well as the captain, Ellen Gruber. So the women, kind of have some momentum going into the Halloween matchup against Rutgers, if I'm not mistaken, Kaylee.
Yeah, Ohio State will be taking on Rutgers, tonight on Halloween, and we'll have to see how the Lady Buckeyes kind of fare into that.
Definitely.
To see how they do.
Yeah, and as far as the men's team goes, what were you able to witness them accomplish this past week?
Well, on Saturday, the men's team took on Rutgers in a 4-1 win. Really impressive for the Buckeyes, a 3-goal deficit again. The other teams having a 3-goal deficit. This is the second time that Ohio State has won with 3 goals. Their last one was against Bowling Green. So they play Rutgers. Danny Jensen had 2 goals. Danny Jensen also receiving Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week. So congrats to a little bit late, but to Danny Jensen. He got assists from Max Moeller and Yanni Saris. Other scorers for that night were Liam Doyle and Kyle Culbertson. So kind of good for the Buckeyes to get that conference win. I was impressed.
Definitely. So they're in good position in the Big Ten. They're second behind Penn State, if I'm not mistaken. And but they also had a non-conference matchup with the Kentucky Wildcats on Tuesday, and that was not quite so lopsided in the Buckeyes' favor.
No, against Kentucky, the Buckeyes tied 1-1, and the goal for the Buckeyes was scored. Kind of a nice little senior night goal for Ryan Ivancic. It was his first goal of the season, and he actually scored off an assist from fellow senior Yanni Saris. So it was senior night, kind of a big game for the Buckeyes. Kentucky held possession most of the game, especially in the first half. Kentucky really just controlled in the midfield, and that comes off Settergrens, the coach for Kentucky. That just comes off his style of play. He plays a very aggressive offense, like attacking formation. He's very aggressive and offensively minded, but they also played with a bowl in the back. Ohio State played really flat. So Liam Doyle, Hunter Robertson, Tyler Kidwell, and Austin Bergstrom played kind of in a line. So that limited the Buckeyes in their offensive momentum, as they weren't really able to create a bowl behind there. But Alex Ivanoff, goalkeeper for the Buckeyes, he played phenomenal. This was their last home game for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and I was impressed with the game, especially holding a team like that. Number 16 in the coaches poll was what Kentucky was, and they held them. So I thought really impressive game for the Buckeyes, but they're actually going to be traveling this week, and they will be playing against Maryland to continue their Big Ten conference. And looking into the world of Ohio State ice hockey, both teams had a bye weekend, and they're going to continue their season this weekend, Halloween weekend, and the men will be traveling to Canisius. They will be in Buffalo, New York, taking on Canisius 2 nights, and then the women will be home, and they will be taking on St. Cloud State. They'll be taking them on Friday and on Saturday. Friday, 6:07 at the OSU Women's Ice Arena, and Saturday at 1:07. So right before the Ohio State-Illinois matchup, students, go ahead, go out there and support your Lady Buckeyes. But I think that's all the time we have for today.
Yeah, as you said, Kaylee, no excuse for the Buckeyes student body to not go support the women in that Saturday afternoon matchup. So, of course, their first action since the series sweep of Bemidji State. And obviously we'll have analysis of both how the men and women fare this coming weekend in our next episode. But would you like to plug our social media before we sign off?
Yeah, join us at Chalk Talk OSU, or, kind of send us a little bit of a hashtag that at #CTOSU. And I'm Kaylee Renz for Andrew Todd Smith and Aaron Yarian. Thank you and goodbye.